Hello and welcome to this episode of the Revo British Motocross Championships Fueled by Golf Race Fuel Studio Show. Today I'm joined by Josh Coppins and Tristan Purdon. Firstly, thank you for coming on the show with us today, guys. Probably try and get to know you a little bit better. Tristan, you've been a wildcard sensation, has joined us at the British Championship and have really made an impression on us here and I think a lot of the teams in the paddock. And obviously Josh, need no introduction to our viewers. Multiple time champion in different series and multiple GP race wins. Firstly, you hail from South Africa and primarily race there.
Yeah.
You race for Rebel KTM, Tristan, over there. Just give us an idea of how different that is to the racing that goes on here in the UK and how different the schedule is for you.
So my schedule back home, I do both classes, so it's MX1, MX2, so it's quite a busy day. And then also just having more riders on the line. We normally have like 10 or 15, so we don't have full gates. And like my struggle is like the qualifying laps and my first few laps to get going with everyone. So that I've picked up and learning quite a bit now. So learning as I go, but yeah, on doing 2 classes in a day is quite hectic. So it's nice doing 1 class.
Yeah.
But just the motor's a bit longer, yeah.
So when you say 2 classes, is how many races is that per?
So it's 4 motors in a day. 4
motors in a day,
yeah,
so 2 motors
four,
each.
420s.
Wow. And you got practice and qualifying involved in that as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Josh, obviously, I don't know if you've ever raced 2 classes in one day before.
I have, yeah. So New Zealand quite similar. When you're growing up, to get as much racing as you can, it's fairly normal to race 2 classes.
Really?
But obviously when I was doing it was pre-4 strokes, so 125 and 250. Not so much 250, 450 situation. But yeah, I have done it, and throughout most of my racing in New Zealand, which wasn't that long because I came to Europe pretty young.
Okay, and you based your racing in Europe out of Belgium, was it?
Yeah, so I actually started travelling overseas mostly when I was about 15, racing in Asia, anywhere where I could make some money. And it was always my plan to try to go to Europe. We ended up in Europe full time from 17. So, and at that point I just focused on GPs, and when I went home I didn't race that much. It was a short period because by the time we did GPs and all the international races, it was a pretty big year.
Am I right in saying you came into GPs and things as a privateer?
Yeah, so actually paid for a ride. So back then, it was a long time ago now, so there was no such thing as satellite teams, satellite support teams. It was really factory team and privateer, or factory team and a sponsored privateer, or a privateer that had a sponsor. So we paid for a ride. You know, we did our numbers and worked out what it was going to cost in order to turn up and buy a bike and buy everything and do it as a privateer, and it worked out cheaper with the amount of riding I was going to do to pay into a team.
Really?
So I paid in for 3 years. I was a slow learner. It took me a long time to ride to my potential, and then after 3 years got a free ride, and then the 5th year became a factory rider. So it was a slow progression.
Wow. Was that on Honda's? Your
Suzuki.
First? Suzuki was it?
Yeah, so I rode Suzuki in New Zealand, and then I got a connection in Europe and stayed Suzuki all the way through, and then I spent 2 factory rider years with Suzuki, and then moved to Honda.
Tristan, just going back to yourself, obviously you come and raced with us. I think your first one was at Blacksall. You rode Fat Cats, and now here at Whitby. How have you enjoyed being in the British paddock? Has it been something you wanted to do for a while, or?
Yeah, I've always thought about doing the British Championship, and then just had the opportunity this year to do it and get over it. And yeah, it's enjoying the paddock, something different for me, learning every race I go to, just and taking it as much as I can and enjoying it.
How many teams, so to say, are there in South Africa? Obviously, you're on probably the best team over there, being Red Bull KTM. How many teams at the paddock?
There's quite a few teams out there. They've got Yamaha. Yeah. It's a competing team against us. So, and there's small teams. So there's a few options out there, but not like out here or Europe or whatever.
So I take it the goal is possibly looking to see what comes, looking for a ride in the paddock, or?
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, the goal at the moment. So see what happens, what comes up, and then see where it takes me.
I think there's going to be quite a few teams looking at you. Obviously, you come off of I think it was a top 10 at Blacksall. Was it 11th overall?
I think 11th overall was just I was running 5th in the last one and then threw it away.
Threw it away.
Yeah.
But obviously you came back and bounced back at Fat Cats and really impressed everyone by pulling off a 5th, which round that circuit, everybody in the paddock grinds out laps there all winter. So for that I think that raised a lot of eyebrows. Josh, obviously you're saying you came in as a privateer. You know, you had to push your way into the sport and get rides. It didn't just come for you. Tristan, you know, trying to do the same thing as a young professional. Any advice or tips you could give him in the trade?
Yeah, I would recommend trying to learn as much as he can. Any domestic championship's tough. So for example, if we took the UK's top guys down to South Africa, I'm fairly confident think that Tristan could probably beat them or be very close to it because he's comfortable in his surroundings. So take his time, learn the tracks, learn the competition, and I'm sure there's no reason why he can't run up front, but it's not going to happen instantly because these guys have ridden on these tracks so much, they know. And it didn't matter, even I was winning Grand Prix when I was doing my best at British Championship, and it was still hard to win here. You know, I remember coming here, racing James Noble, it was his home track. I was running 2nd in the world and it was hard to beat him here. So it doesn't matter where you go, any domestic championship's tough, so take your time and basically do your time and learn and take away those learnings and over time you'll be successful, there's no doubt about it.
That's good. I think that's good advice. You spoke about the British Championship a little bit there. You won 2 British Championships yourself, those in 2004, 2005?
Yes. Yeah. I did 4 years, but unfortunately I came in injured. My first year riding for Cass Honda, I came in injured and only did half the season. And then I won it in 04 and 05 and then 06. Unfortunately got a shoulder injury at the first year, or just prior to the first Grand Prix. And then I came in and did the last half of the season. I managed to win every round, but obviously I missed. I think I must have finished about 5th overall.
Right. Okay. That shoulder injury you sustained in 06, you were saying, is that what you re-injured in 07? I know it's a sore subject.
No, different injury. So, different injury. Yeah, the same side, but one was on the shoulder joint and one was on the shoulder blade. So, yeah, different injuries. So, it was both injuries were kind of unlucky, but it's part of the sport. No real mistake of mine, but it can happen.
I remember growing up in 07 and you were at your best. You were in your prime, and you dominated. You built up a 100-point lead. And
it was hard to take at the time, but I mean, I'm sure Tristan will have ups and downs. I'm sure many riders in this paddock will have ups and downs, and obviously to lose a championship like that's tough. But at the time, as you said, I was so dominant. In my mind, I thought, well, I'll just win next year. I was that confident at that point. I felt like I could win any Grand Prix on any day. And I just thought to myself, I'll win next year, and unfortunately came into the season, picked up an injury again, small one, but enough to put me on the back foot, and then my best days were over by that point. So didn't happen to get the title, but still very proud of my career, and it just is what it is.
You raced in an era with him, in many people's opinion, the best guys in the business. So
yeah, I didn't think that at the time.
Really?
I thought, no, I can be the best in the business.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you're right. You know, so Stefan was one of the very best, and arguably will be one of the best. So it was tough. I had Pichon and then Stefan, so it was two.
You were runner-up to Pichon and Stefan.
Yeah. So 2 pretty good riders, but that's. Of course, you want to try to beat the best, but unfortunately, that was a tough time.
Tristan, you're similar age to myself, so probably growing up, you used to watch the GPs like me.
I remember going to Sun City to go watch all the boys and getting to meet Josh then already. So that was pretty cool.
So coming into Whitby this weekend, Tristan, you're coming off from a 5th place overall at Fat Cats. What's the goal here? I know the goal's always a win, but what's
the goal is to top 5 again, but try to be closer to the front guys this time, because there was quite a bit of a gap at Fat Cats, so try to be up there and stick with them this time. So
do you feel like the 450 is your best class?
Yeah,
obviously you rode 250 and 450 in South Africa. I know you're currently leading the 450 championship and you're 1 point behind the 250 championship.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for me to be saying. You look at it and you think, wow. But the 450 is definitely your primary option.
Yeah, I prefer the 450. It suits me. And,
suits you right, yeah. So you walk the track. Does it suit you in terms of layout?
It looks good. It looks jumpy and flowy, and we've got a track back home similar to the soil. Like it can get very slippery, or it can get nice and tacky with some good ruts in it. So
yeah,
looking for a good day.
That's brilliant. I noticed that in 2021 you were competing for South Africa in the Des Nations. I know, Josh, you've competed in numerous Des Nations over the years. I think you've been chosen again for Des Nations. Just give us an idea of what that was like. Obviously, it's every rider's dream to represent their country at the pinnacle of the sport, in a sense. So just give us an idea of what that was like for you.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, because every year I just missed, like, someone else would get my spot, or like stuff happened, and then last year getting picked and going, that was cool. And also like whole shotting the qualifying race was quite cool, and everyone back home keeps talking about it to me. So then going back to Red Bud this year, we have a good team this year, and now like it's all back to normal again. So it's going to be a little bit tougher, I think, but I'm sure we can qualify and have good results.
Good. Red Bud, obviously one of the most famous tracks in the world. Is that somewhere you always wanted to ride?
Yeah, we have to do the leap now when we can.
Yeah, that's where everybody be going for.
Yeah.
What sort of backing do you get from South Africa at the federation? Do you have to sort of fund yourselves, or is there any support there?
Yeah, not a lot. Last year we funded everything ourselves, and then this year we've got a little bit more help from our federation, but still have to rent our own bikes, find our own camper, pay for our upgrade on our license and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
So it's quite tricky, but it's like you're living your dream, and you don't know when you're going to get that opportunity again to go do that kind of race.
And you're on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
If there's any way you're going to get nervous, it's there. Josh, was there ever a point where you had to fund your own Des Nations trips? I think you were going from very early on.
Yeah, so we didn't have to, but we did, because at that time, at my prime, it was also Ben Townley's prime.
Yeah.
So we had a really strong team. We were fortunate enough to have good contracts and good team and good support, and mostly the races were close to us in Belgium. So we just funded it ourselves. And it was pretty easy for the federation, because we had great support anyway. But yeah, this federation did step up when we went to Colorado.
Yeah.
But generally it was a fairly cheap exercise for them. Only the third rider came from New Zealand mostly, so it worked out quite good for them.
Any highlights from you from Des Nations over the years?
Yeah, I rode a few. I think I rode 13 Des Nations.
That's what I was doing the maths last night.
I think only Tan or Leok's ridden more than me. So I did a few. We were leading in Holland, and Leroy. New Zealand was leading after round one, but unfortunately I had a bike issue, and so did Ben, so we didn't do too well. But I think we were on the podium 4 times. For New Zealand, that's pretty impressive. I don't think we'll ever, maybe I hope so, but I'm not sure in my time we'll do that again. And I hope we do, but I'm not sure. And so to go on a podium 4 times, we were second a couple and third a couple of times. It's pretty cool for our nation. To give you an idea, of late we've more so struggled to qualify. So we've gone. It used to be us doing really well and Australia struggling. Yeah. And now it's the roles have turned. So unfortunately we haven't produced the international riders like we used to, but hopefully we get better.
I know you're doing a lot of coaching yourself.
More Ben.
Coach the youth to come up.
More Ben. So I look after all racing activities in New Zealand for Yamaha.
Yeah.
So Ben is one of our contractors, and he looks after the junior racing, adventure riding and demo days. So he's more so the guy on the ground at the track working with our riders, our Yamaha riders. I used to do quite a lot of coaching, but now I'm also in the office. I like the coaching, but I don't get to do as much as I'd like anymore.
You still get out and ride a lot?
A little bit. Just getting a little bit older and stiffer, and see photos of yourself, and kind of not looking quite as flamboyant as you used to. It's a little bit embarrassing, but yeah, I still enjoy riding. Still enjoy riding and having that feeling, and just for fun, of course. I don't race very often at all.
Tristan, obviously this whole trip, South Africa, it's a long way away from the UK. It must have cost a bit for you to come out here and make the trip. You know, what was the motivation behind it? Have you had any support from anyone over here to get this done?
Yeah, so Ashley Kane, he put the bee in my bonnet to come over and like do a few races. So he helped me get hold of Sean, and Sean's sponsors are like dice carriers and South Zealand, so they've been funding everything for me. So I've been enjoying that and grateful for that opportunity. So they've been the biggest help.
You've also been doing a lot of the Scottish Championship with Sean and riding a lot with Sean. What's that been like, and how have you got to know Sean over the time you've been here?
Yeah, I'm enjoying that. Sean's a good person, and the whole family is good, so they look after my bike and just go training with them. So that's enjoying that. And then the Scottish Championship's pretty good, especially with the last one. We had a few good riders come out there, and it was good for the Scottish racing, and I enjoyed it.
Billy McKenzie's a big character in the Scottish Championship. Josh, I know you know Billy as well.
Yeah, Billy rode for us for a couple of years down under.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so came and stayed with us, and really enjoyed having him on the team. He was a pleasure to have, actually. He's different, but yeah, I enjoyed his time with us.
Yeah, he lives close, like 5-minute walk from where I'm staying at the moment, so we go for runs and cycles and that, so that's pretty cool.
That's good. You raced Billy a lot in your career, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yep. So he was mostly MX2, and then when he went MX1, I might have done three or four, maybe 3 years with him. And then I retired 2010 in Europe and went back and did Australia and New Zealand for 2 years.
And then you retired there in 2012.
Yeah, and I raced him in Australia 11 and 12 as well. So managed to come out on the better side.
Oh, really?
But he was a good competitor. He led the 11. He led the championship all the way to the final round, and I managed to get in front of him just for the finish. But 12, I was a little bit stronger before I retired.
What do you think of him riding the British? You be checking him out tomorrow?
100%. I'm looking forward to watching him, actually. You know, so last time I saw him was in New Zealand. He's a character, and I admire what he's doing. You know, I'm not sure I'd do that, but I've got a lot of like I said, I respect for what he's doing.
100%. He's put in some really impressive rides. Actually.
Yeah, and just enjoying it and doing it for himself. It's coming from, he's been at the very best. And so being able to ride for himself now is just for fun and enjoy it and experience it is cool.
I was actually looking at the stats and everything last night, and I was struggling to understand. Obviously, I was going through how many championships. So you won 2 British championships, a Belgian championship, an Italian championship, 2 Australian championships, and then 22 New Zealand championships.
Yeah, I think it's more like even more, maybe 28 or 29 for New Zealand. But I mean, no one really cares after 20, do they? Or not even 20, I guess. So I'm not 100% sure, but there's all kind of different titles like TT championships and Supercross and motocross. And as we talked about, I was riding 2 classes. So some years you could win 2 for Supercross, 105, 250, and 2 for motocross, 105 and 250. So some years in my prime I was able to win 4 championships, so I added up pretty quick.
Did you ever take to Supercross? Was that ever something you enjoyed?
I actually came close to doing a contract with Suzuki the end of 2002. But my dream was always to be a world champion, and I never quite achieved that. So I never wanted to sort of take the leap into America until I'd done that. And unfortunately, I never quite achieved it, and it never happened. So, but in saying that, no regrets. I was happy with the path I chose. So in short, probably not. If I'd really wanted to do it, I would have done it. So I would say the desire was there, but not enough to pursue it.
Tristan, Supercross ever interested you? Have you ever had those anything in South Africa with Supercross? Or?
Yeah, we did. We had in 2014, we had a Supercross round. I did that and I enjoyed it. It looks like fun, but I think it's also quite hectic coming out short in the doubles or something. So
yeah.
So it's, but also I think it will take time to learn it as well, to get into it. So if the opportunity comes, so maybe we can do it. Or...
Yeah. What age did you both start riding at? There's a couple of questions that it's nice to ask everyone because we all start at the same point.
Yeah, I was 4 for riding and 11 for racing because there was no minis, no 50s, or it was straight 80cc. So yeah.
And what bike was that?
Suzuki RM80 I started on when I was 11.
And what about you, Tristan?
I was 3 when I started around on the farm, and then
Yes.
I think it was 7 doing nationals in South Africa.
And
So in the
what bike-
50s.
And what bike was that on?
So my first bike was a QR Honda,
Oh yeah.
and then a KTM 50
Yeah.
for
So you've
racing. Yeah.
KTM throughout your career, I'm guessing.
Or no, I've been on different bands. So.
Have you? Any other teams in South Africa?
Yeah, I've been on. My past team was Yamaha 4 years ago. So
Yeah.
I was on Yamaha for 5 years, and then switched to KTM.
So the goal for you was like Josh, I'm guessing, to get onto the wheel stage.
Yeah.
You know, possibly get a ride over here and make your way onto that wheel stage. Any ideas on how and when and possibly how you're going to do that? Are you going to keep striving?
I'm gonna, yeah, just keep pushing. I'm getting old, my age, so I have to just keep pushing and see, because everyone's coming at like 15, 16, and
That's
yeah, at 25 it's a bit late, but we'll see what happens.
What age was it that you did your first GP, Josh?
15 in Australia.
15.
Yeah, so did a 125 Grand Prix in Manchester in Perth, and then had a contract to race in Asia when I was 16, and then came over to do 250 Grand Prix when I was 17. And that was young then. It's not young now. You know,
Yeah.
kids are coming over a lot earlier, but it was a different model then. You know, you turned up. It was like doing your apprenticeship. You grafted away and you
Paid your dues.
Yeah, paid your dues. Now you got to be quick, good, and young, and work your way through Europeans, and then step up and take your time and step up each ladder. So the way Tristan's doing it's different, but it's still doable.
Do you think the way it is at the moment, the format of everything getting to World Championship level is a little bit unhealthy, and the fact that these kids are starting so young and burning themselves out and the injuries, you know?
Yes and no. I think the injuries and the unhealthiness was happening at a national championship level as well. Ultimately, I think that the kids will be successful, the ones that have the real passion and desire. You know, so you have to have a good pathway, and that generally comes from the parents. And my recommendation is enjoy it until those younger years, until you're at least 12, 13, and then if your child can navigate their early teens and get through that period and still keep progressing, then you could have a chance. So there's a different pathway for every kid. Everyone's different. There's no pathway that's the right for every person. So you know, whether it's Tristan and coming in at that 25, or whether it's Ken Roxon doing Grand Prix at 15, or whether it's Conrad Muse coming through the system of winning 65 junior, 85 junior, and working in that way. Tristan may be successful at 25, and Conrad's starting to find things difficult now, and he's been very successful. So who's to say he did it the right way and Tristan's not? It's everyone's different. Just enjoy it, make the most of what you can, learn as much as you can, and yeah, it's still possible no matter which way you go. I think.
Both of you looking at the GPs now as a whole, obviously they're going to some venues and struggling to get full gates. I know back when you were riding, Josh, that might be the case at some venues, but not on the scale that it is now. Do you think there's issues with the way it's being run, or what needs to change in your opinions?
If you had asked me this question while I was racing, I would have said yes. When you ask me now as a team owner and working for a manufacturer, I would say we need to be a little bit more lenient. It's a tricky one. You know, I'll give you an example. In New Zealand we sell 9,000 motorcycles a year as a brand Yamaha. In Indonesia we sell 1 million. So we sell more in one day in Indonesia than we do in a whole year in New Zealand. So in saying that, a big part of the funding for Yamaha's MotoGP team comes from Indonesia because of the strength of the motorcycle sales. So to go there and race is a good thing. Unfortunately, I have some sympathy for in front, because when they negotiated Indonesia, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and obviously the lot's changed. So for the teams now, it's too expensive to go there. That's not good, but they didn't know that when they were negotiating that a few years ago. So in short, to answer your question, yes, I think we should be going to some of these countries, but we have to make it affordable for the teams, and we have to be mindful of the cost and the effort that it takes to do that. So maybe not as much, but I still think we need to be a World Championship Series from a manufacturer's sense, and those teams need to try to strive to get that funding from the manufacturers as a World Championship.
Yeah.
And I know that's what Infront want to do, but sometimes what they want to do in reality, they just need to try to line that up a little bit more. That's my take.
Yeah. And Tristan, obviously you coming in, it's making it hard for you as a private team to be able to go to some of these venues. You know, there's a lot of people that would like to, you know, push their way into the World Series, and they can't quite do it because of the funding you need to get to these places.
But like I've also when it came to South Africa, the GP, I missed out that opportunity to try my luck at a GP. Or
that's true. You also get it from that side of things. Changing subject a little bit now, going back to some of our questions. Race numbers is quite it's a thing with every rider. How you pick it, how you got it, is it special to you in any way, shape or form? Like sometimes it can change over the years. Is there any reason behind you being number 41? Or?
Well, I had a number before, and then when I went to one team, they said no, it's too big for the printing, and
really?
Then 41, and it stuck like that.
What was the number before?
It was 160. I was 60 my whole career coming up, and then I thought, going on the big bike, and I'd try 3-digit, and then they were like, no, it's too big for printing.
So no real special reason behind it. Josh, you were...
Yeah, for me, no, not really. I ended up with number 6, but...
you ran 5.
Yeah, I did run 5, and I ran 5 in Australia. 5 was good for me, but I ran all kinds of numbers coming through. And then, obviously, later in my career was the start of social media, was the start of personalising your number and branding. And so Yamaha asked me to pick one number, and I ran 6. So I can't say I was super successful. It stuck with me now. But then, when I went to Australia, 6 was taken, and I was number 5, and I managed to win a championship there. So
5 was already good for you.
5 was good, yeah. So 6 is probably what I'm mostly known for, and still today I ride 6 if I do, but no real meaning to it. I've been a lot of different numbers and had good luck with and bad luck with most.
Your son Nixon, he rides the British Motocross Championship. I know he's number 6 as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He came to New Zealand, and I printed some graphics for him, and they asked me what number. I said, 6 will do, and it stuck. So no real reason behind that either, to be fair.
Okay.
I don't think he actually wants to be 6. It's just how it worked out. He got what he was given.
He's been riding today, Nixon.
Yeah.
Happy with everything the way it's going at the moment. He looks really, really good on the bike in terms of the way he sits his position and everything. He does look.
Yeah, it's a hard one. As a parent, it's always hard. You know, when you're coaching, parents will often say, "Oh, they don't listen to me," and it's not a lot different with Nixon and myself. You know, sometimes he'll say, "Oh, well, what do you know?" And I'll be like, "Well, I've done a bit. You know, I've raced a wee bit." So it's frustrating. It's hard. Obviously, I live in New Zealand. He lives in the UK. So he comes out, and we get a lot of work done. And then when I'm here, I try to do a lot of work with him. But it's hard to be patient because I'm not with him all the time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as long as he's having fun and he's got aspirations to be the best, will that happen? That's going to come from him. Sometimes I have to think back to when I was younger because you sort of forget about the struggles that you may have had. But I'm enjoying just riding with him and seeing him progress, and I like his attitude and just trying to have fun with it, but it can be frustrating like for any parent at times.
100%, yeah. I can only imagine. As another question on a different topic now, you've been coaching over the years since retiring. JCI, Yamaha, you've been running that over in New Zealand for a while now. What was the real change in mentality from being a rider to being all of a sudden a team owner and team manager?
It's a really good question, and I've been doing it 10 years now, and I only feel like I've just got a handle of it now. Very hard, especially if you're. I was fortunate to be very spoilt as a rider. You know, I earned it, but it's hard to take that mentality into a team where you are so passionate about it and want to win, and then you have to work within a budget, and you're working with corporate, so there's so many different angles from a sponsorship part, trying to get it to align and work. To be honest, I thought it would be a lot easier. I've got a lot more respect for the teams I rode for now. I wish I'd been a little bit of a better rider, a little bit more less demanding maybe, and maybe a little bit more. I don't think I was disrespectful, but definitely I didn't understand. Even my ex-partner was a team manager, and I didn't understand the workload, the effort, the time, the money that goes into it. You're in a bit of a bubble as a rider, and so you should be. You're fully focused on that goal. But it's been a learning experience. I'm sure any team manager in this paddock would agree. It's very hard to make a living from running a team.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate enough. My job's slightly different. I work for Yamaha, and I run the teams for Yamaha.
Okay.
So at first I was owner and operator, and it wasn't working out too well. So for the longevity of my relationship in the team and Yamaha, we changed it up. But it's very hard to go from being and I think this doesn't matter if you're a racer. Tristan will go through this as well, as being a professional racer, and then going into life after that is you have to be really organised. Some guys struggle. I've had many teammates which have struggled. I was really organised, and it was still tough. I guess you're so spoiled, and I was fortunate enough to be paid well and looked after, and then it all stops. So you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Tristan, obviously best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We want to see you do well. We want to see you come back here in the future. I'll leave on one question for you both, which I think is a good one. As an individual, so far in your career, what's your favourite racing memory to this point? Has there ever been a race where you look back and thought, oh, that was...
I would say, I think last year we had with one of our nationals, we won all 4 motors in the day. It was like almost a perfect, qualified first, won all 4 motors. It was like a perfect day. So I think that's one of them. It's been a few, but I think that's at the top.
Yeah. And Josh, obviously.
Yeah, for me, easy memory for me would be Desert Martin in 2006. I was injured that year, and Stephen Evans was winning relatively easy, and he had a perfect season going, and I came back and chipped away, and finally won the Grand Prix at Desert Martin. But more so for me, what was on that day, what was impressive for me was I lapped everybody except for Stephen.
Really?
So, I mean,
Was it wet? Or?
No, it wasn't wet. I was just on that day. It was probably the best I ever rode, and you know, people talk about how good Hurlings is in the sand and how much domination he has, and I'm not comparing myself with that guy by any means, but I feel like that was almost Hurling-esque. You know, where my teammate was third on the podium, and I lapped him. So that was probably the best I ever rode. So that was my best memory.
Walking back after the mirror, feeling pretty good about yourself.
Well, my the best part was ending Stefan's perfect season. I mean, I like Stefan, but you know, he's got a lot of championships and a lot of titles, but he never had a perfect season. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah, so he beat me a lot more than I beat him, but he doesn't have that. So I'll take that one.
Brilliant. Thank you both for coming on. Been great talking to you both. Tristan, all the best with your career. We hope to see you back. And Josh, thank you. We hope to see you back in the British paddock soon.
You will.
Thank you very much.